So we'll just wait for everyone to join us, and then we'll go ahead and do our presentations. This is kind of fun. This will be fun to hear. All right, looks like everybody's back. Hopefully that was a lot of fun and caused some really good conversations amongst all the groups. I see some nodding from some folks, so at least some people enjoyed it. It's good to know. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to call the groups off in order of the group number that you were. So hopefully y'all are prepared. So we are going to start with group 1, which was Chewelah, Moses Lake, SoCo, and TWISP. So whoever your spokespersons are, please take it away.
All right, who's going to go first between us?
Maybe you just volunteered yourself there, Chuck.
No, I think
Well,
we
I think-
decided to start in TWISP.
Yeah,
Start in TWISP, yep.
Okay, yeah, we decided that the first stop, although it could come from different ways, would be heading from the west side, from Seattle or Skagit County, over Highway 20, which is just a breathtaking entry into the North Cascade Mountains. And also, we encourage people before they leave on their drive to visit the Meadow Interpretive Center's website that has the history and indigenous history of the Meadow people and the significance of all of the peaks that you'll view on your drive over. When you drop down into the Meadow Valley, then you'll end up in TWISP after you go through Mazama and Winthrop. We encourage you to drop your car off at TWISP Works, which is a 6.5 acre campus, which was a former Forest Service project. And now it hosts many different maker spaces and artist studios, an amphitheater, a food truck, and the Meadow Valley Interpretive Center. You can put on your walking shoes and head over to the community center for our farmers market, which is vibrant and represents our cultural region. You'll be staying at the TWISP River Suite, so you can check in at 3. And then there's a lot of different restaurants, but we do recommend one that utilizes our local produce and grains, which is called the Toppy Sicilian Restaurant. Don't forget to visit the Confluence Gallery. If you need groceries, there's a organic market called Glover Street Market and a wonderful bakery in the morning. It's called Cinnamon Twist Bakery. And if you're lucky, you'll be able to walk right into the historic Merck Theater and partake in a night of beautiful performance. And off you go the next morning to Chewelah.
Okay, and as you come into Chewelah, you're going to come down the hill. Actually, I'm not sure which direction we're going to come, but if you come in from the Spokane direction, you drive down the hill and you see the whole valley sort of open up before you, and there's Chewelah there at the center of the valley. It's a beautiful drive coming in. It's always feels like home, you know, when you first come down that hill, and it's all of a sudden everything gets quiet, peaceful. And we have, if we time it around the first Thursday of the month, we have our art walks, which have, I think we now have 5 galleries that participate. There's lots of activities going on through that. You can go around, see all the different venues. There's usually some drinks, some beverages, a lot of fun things going on there. Also later in the month, we have our artist meetings. We have a few restaurants to try from. We have in our district, we have Sporty's, which is the sort of our main sort of restaurant. It's a bar. They have a lot of upscaled food for specials. We have the Mountain Market, which is new-ish in town. It's actually an old Catholic school that was converted into a series of boutiques and shops, and now just recently has a new restaurant named Salt that's opened up. And sorry, I got distracted by the message there. Yeah, and we for places to stay, we have a new hotel that's just about to open up, just outside of town, in front of the casino. Yeah, and I think that should bring us to Moses Lake. Am I forgetting anything? I'm sorry, we're
Guys,
going to Kennewick.
wrap
We're
it up.
going.
You got like 90 seconds to get this
Okay,
done.
we've got
Yeah.
a mural
Kennewick
tour.
next.
So
Sorry, that's the mural tour. Sorry.
yeah, so then you come to Kennewick, and you're going to stay at the Clover Island Inn, which is right on Clover Island, along the Columbia River with fantastic views. Feel free to drop your car off there because you can check out bikes from the hotel and bike your way into the historic district, where you can either explore our public market, which newly opened out of an old Welch's juice factory, with tons of vendors and pop-ups. And then of course we encourage you to come to downtown Kennewick, maybe pick up one of our art brochures put out by the City of Kennewick's Arts Commission that lists all of the public art you can see by foot in the downtown area, from murals, sculptures, traffic boxes. But of course, we'd encourage you to check out some of our galleries, whether it's DS Watkins or UNI Gallery, visit the Historical Society in the park. And for food, we've got a lot of wonderful local makers. You can grab a cup of coffee from our local roaster, Rockabilly Roaster, who makes coffee for Knocking Point and coffee huts all over the Pacific Northwest. They have a really quirky vibe. Or if you're here Thursday through Friday, you can check out Layered Cake Artistry. It's a boutique bakery with a dessert counter who makes some of the most sweet and beautiful decorated desserts you've ever seen. And if you want to really challenge yourself to an excellent meal, Hot Mess Burgers and Fries. Get a giant house-made burger where they make their own buns, even their own sauces like ketchup. All their burgers are themed after funky pop cultural icons, movies, and experiences. It's a full day of sun and walking to discover where art meets your everyday living opportunities in Kennewick. And then you'll want to bump up on a beautifully scenic drive to Moses Lake.
Yes, thank you. Whoops. And from Kennewick, we would suggest taking the 240. It'll go by the Hanford nuclear site up through Wanapum. That way you can see all of the amazing basalt columns and formations that are down the coulee corridor of Central Washington. And once you get to Moses Lake, we would suggest you and your family come on a sort of walking tour from the museum to the market, starting at the Moses Lake Museum and Art Center, where we've got a rotating gallery of regional local artists, a great shop, and then continue doing shopping down our 3rd Avenue, which is the main part of our creative district, where you've got tons of galleries and also Hispanic heritage or Hispanic person-based businesses, including the Aztec restaurant, Tacos El Rey restaurant, Tienda Tres Hermanos, and then continuing down to Nepal Landing, which is a lovely lake walk until you wind back up. Where you'll see our Cinque Square, and on various Saturdays, lots of events are happening there in the fall, from an art and wine walk to the Umani Festival, a Hispanic heritage celebration. And then also all the way back to the market in our McCosh Park, where we have our amphitheater busy several weekends of the year, and our farmers market through October. And I think that's about it. And then once you're in
Fantastic.
Moses Lake,
All right.
I-90.
Fantastic. Thanks. We're going to go on to the next group. So 5 minutes. We got to keep it to 5 minutes, everybody. This is quick, quick, quick. So group number 2, Burien Olympia Tenino, go.
Oh, that's us. Okay, so we are pitching ours as a family-friendly destination creative district tour or a staycation from the Seattle area. If you're flying into SeaTac or you're somewhere in the Seattle area, you've got your car or you rent a car when you land, and 10 minutes later, you're in beautiful downtown Burien, where there is accessible parking, and you're 10 minutes from the airport, you're in town. You get out and you can partake in a self-guided tour of all of the public art throughout Burien, with stops at all of our locally independent owned shops and restaurants along the way, as well as a visit to the Highline Heritage Museum that's just right down in town there. While you're looking at art, shopping, and done with your museum tour, you're gonna want to take the kids to the Maker Space downtown Burien, which is an awesome, huge artist space where for a very affordable fee, you and your entire family can experiment with different types of arts, from neon making to woodworking. Maybe you're not feeling super adventurous, so you just want to make a mug, but you've got your souvenir from your Burien Creative District tour to take home with you. We then suggest that you check into your Airbnb or one of the adorable bed and breakfasts in town, and get ready for a night out. Head back into town, have dinner at one of the many restaurants that you can visit in the downtown area. And then we would suggest that you either head to our performing arts district, which is part of the arm of our creative district. We want to make sure that we're showing some love in that area too, or attend one of the many community festivals that Burien has to offer. Then get to bed, because bright and early you need to wake up and start your 1 hour and 20-minute trip down the beautiful I-5 corridor to visit Tenino.
And welcome to Nino. Once you get here, we suggest that you go to the Sandstone Cafe in the heart of the Creative District for a wonderful meal to kick off it, and then orient yourself. Then we have 16 sculptures from sandstone that you can do a self-walking tour, and also a tour of our downtown buildings. We have brochures for both of those. And then we recommend you go over and check out our Tenino Depot Museum that has the history of Tenino. And then look at the couple of shops that we have downtown. We have antique, we have a very unique, the Ironworks Boutique that covers a lot of different women's garden area, all kinds of unique things for them to go see and do as well. And then if you're here when our farmers market or creative district market on the second Saturday, it's great to check out what that is too. Anything else, Bob?
Yes, don't forget the shiplap quilt. I can't even say it. Shiplap quilt shop, which brings people from just all over. I mean, it's way more than just Washington people, but people travel to the shop because it's so unique. And then I like what you mentioned earlier, George, the playground, which is not just for kids, but it's stuff for adults to play on as well. And then you head up to Olympia.
And once you get to Olympia and you're tuckered from your trip down into Tenino and your fun-filled day, we would suggest that you check into one of our downtown hotels, for maybe the one that's closest to the farmers market and the port. So when you wake up in the morning, you can head over to the farmers market and pick up some fresh fruit or grab some tasty breakfast sandwich, walk around, see what local fairs would be fun, gifts, souvenirs for the area. We would suggest then maybe walking it off down Percival Landing, where you can take yourself on a self-guided public art tour. Then maybe if there are kiddos in tow, you can take them down to the Hands-On Children's Museum, which is a local destination. Lots of things for grown-ups and kids to do there. Spend a good portion of your day. And when everybody's ready for lunch, you can head downtown. You can stop anywhere to pick up a sandwich or a burger or a salad or a vegan meal, if you're interested, pizza. And after lunch, you can do some shopping, maybe stop at Archibald Sisters and prepare your own fragrance, or a fragrance that reminds you of someone back home, another fun souvenir to take with you. That evening, after everybody's kind of taken a break, you can visit the Capitol Theater and get engaged with our Indie Music Project, Indie Music History Project, that's local and ongoing. Before heading back up to SeaTac, we would suggest maybe stopping by Captain Little, which is our local toy store, and then maybe at Dancing Goats or Ember Goods to grab a coffee for your trip back up towards SeaTac and home.
Awesome. Thanks for that. All right. So now we have group number 3, Rainier, Issaquah, and Edmonds. 5 minutes. You can go.
Hey there, Todd from Edmonds. So the idea is kind of out of the ordinary. So we've got Edmonds, Rainier Valley, and Issaquah, like Annette said. The key thing is like those 3 communities have so much to offer about Western Washington. What is Western Washington all about? There's so much experience in those, such a variety, and also such quality. So again, with that out of the ordinary kind of moniker or tagline, you're getting really out of the ordinary experiences with them. One of the things we could start with is a direct flight into Payne Field, which has direct flights from numbers of places across the country, pulling people in from Southern California in particular. And then you can go from Payne Field there in Everett, take an Amtrak car, rent a car, or take a number of different ways to get down to Edmonds to start your tour. And I'll turn it over to Donna.
Great. So in Edmonds, you're going to kick it off with some breakfast. We've got some great breakfast spots, Rescue Pelican, the Chanterelle. But after breakfast, you're going to want to stroll. So we've got to walk down by the water. And in September, we have something that's called plein air, which is a bunch of artists doing painting right there along the water. So you get to watch art in front of you, which would be really fun. After that, you've got some inspiration. So now it's time to go make art yourself. There are several options in Edmonds to do that. You can go to the Paint Your Pottery spot. You could also go to either the art spot or the Cole Gallery, and they have classes there. So that could be really fun. Once you're done with making your own art, you're going to be totally hungry. So we expect you to have to look for a place for lunch. We suggest going to the Red Twig because you can get coffee and sandwiches really easily. So that way you can get your boost for the next part of your day. After you have lunch, you have a matinee at the Driftwood Players. So you're going to go down and watch a show that'll give you a little bit of time to sit and relax and watch others in front of you doing art. After your show, you're going to be looking for a cocktail and maybe some great food. There's some fantastic places. One of our favorite cocktail places is Daphne's. You're only going to get a cocktail there, though, so you're going to want some food. So walk around the corner if you like sushi. There's Sankai. It's fantastic. If you just want one spot, there's a bunch of places that do cocktails and dinner, Left Craft, Church Key, other places. And then we've decided that the last piece is connect with other artists. And there's a fantastic thing that Graphite has been doing. They've been doing movie night, which allows for a movie and conversation with other people in the community. Your day is full. You're going to be tired. You're going to go to the Best Western and get a good night's sleep. If the Best Western is full, there's a bunch of Airbnbs you can find. Now off to Rainier Valley.
Well, when we talk about Rainier Valley, we're talking about connecting the valley because it's such a long spread of beautiful opportunity. We have a full day of eating, arts, culture. It's a family-friendly community, and we also have lots of Airbnb options. So we want to be able to lay it out for everyone so they can have time to choose what is of their liking, and just get ready with your walking shoes on and your party heels at nighttime, and then we'll transition you the next morning off to Issaquah.
And you can take a quick bus, the 554, straight out from Rainier Valley out to Issaquah. We're suggesting you start off in Gilman Village, which is a collection of about 40 independent stores and restaurants. And there's lots of artistic venues there for cool shopping and eating. And if you'd like to take a class, you can just walk right across the street to the Issaquah Lofts. You could take a printmaking class or a textiles class, or there's lots of kid class options too. And then we suggest that you take a nice nature walk from that Gilman Village area and through Confluence Park over our beautifully designed and artistic bridge with some really cool public art on it, and walk past all of our sculptures in our creative district. And then for some entertainment, you could, if you're here in September, you can visit Village Theater's New Works Festival, which features lots of new works being workshopped, or you could check out our new big picture boutique movie theater with cocktails and craft food. And then we suggest after that, maybe catching some music at one of our downtown restaurants. Lots of them have music in the evening, including Vina Bella, or you could check out Max's World Cafe, which features Goan cuisine, as well as Indian and Portuguese favorites. So enjoy.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Okay, finally, we have group number 4, Port Townsend, Bainbridge, Langley, 5 minutes.
Okay, hi, this is Dina from Whidbey Island Center for the Arts. And we, under the title of cultural tourism, we offer Meet the Creatives by Land and by Sea, introducing Bainbridge, Port Townsend, and Langley, sponsored by our lead sponsor, Washington State Ferries. You come onto a ferry from Seattle, you're given a bag that has all the towns and creative logos on it. You're going to notice in that bag that there are maps, there are things to do, and there are people to talk to. And you're also going to notice a punch card, and we're going to talk about that at the end. It's the first the first weekend of October. It's Friday, and you've just landed in Bainbridge. Bainbridge, take it away.
So after your beautiful ferry ride, leaving the city behind and entering gorgeous West Sound, Bainbridge Island, actually beautiful technically, you're going to take a stroll down Winslow Way. You can use the free parking and leave the car for a minute. Go past the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art, perhaps meeting the person whose exhibition is being featured, and then an array of single artist studios, as well as the cooperative Bainbridge Arts and Crafts gallery with some artists to meet there. You have almost 40 choices for lunch amongst the artisanal places in Winslow Way. And then you, after lunch, have some decisions to make. Will you go to the Bainbridge Artisan Resource Network and see artists at work? Will you head out to the Blodell Reserve for the top of the horticultural world? Or will you go to the National Monument at the Japanese American Exclusion Memorial, which now features some amazing interpretive art, and meet the artists that created it? There really isn't a losing answer, but after that, you can go to Hayday Farm, where Farm to Table has the lowest possible carbon footprint by having the table be at the farm. After your dinner on the farm, you can head into town for First Friday with all of the galleries and restaurants you took a look at in the daytime open at night, showcasing artists. And there is a moonlight market in Town Square, which will be in front of, if we're in next October, the brand new redeveloped Bainbridge Performing Arts Center. For your stay, you have a variety of boutique hotel choices on the island, or 160 Airbnbs, many of which are run by creatives. And then refreshed, you awake the next morning to head to Port Townsend, perhaps stopping off at the Suquamish Museum featuring native art and artists. And I will pass over to Port Townsend, praying that they got my messages as I was talking.
And in Port Townsend, you'll start in Uptown and munch your way through the farmers market, and then head over to Fort Worden and try to take in a center event or visit Makers Square, tune into our local radio station, which is located there, take a class at Northwind Art, or go take photos of our historic lighthouse. And you should be making your reservation for your place of choice. We've got lodgings for every budget. When you head downtown, we'd love you to start at the totem pole and check out the Cheechslahan Public Art Trail sign project, and visit the Museum of Art and History, visit the Salish sculpture at the Cotton Building Plaza, and our art markers, which signify that you're in the creative district. And there's always outdoor music to check out, and there's tours to take by the Victorian Heritage Festival folks, many places to dine. There's 40 restaurants in downtown and uptown Port Townsend. We've got a wonderful vineyards downtown that does wine tastings. You can also just visit our art galleries and check out all the beautiful local art. And then in the evening, you could go to the Rose Theater or take in a Key City Public Theater performance and join in First Saturday Art Walk. And then that weekend, it's also the Kinetic Sculpture Race, which is true craziness, personifying Port Townsend's eclectic nature. And then on to Bainbridge, then on to the ferry to head over to Langley.
Great. Joanne, am I continuing? Okay. So it's Sunday morning. You've slept in Port Townsend. You've arrived in Coupeville around 11:30. You're going to have a map. You're going to start hitting some of the wineries and distilleries as you're making your way down to Langley, which is the home of the Langley Creates District. We're going to meet you there. We're going to have the mayor and the leadership from Langley Creates. We're going to give you a tour of the capital project that we're working on with the native art and hopefully revamping an art walkway from downtown to the arts campus. We're going to end that with a glass blowing class. You're going to make something out of glass you're going to get to take home. You can then go to our local organic farm school, where you're going to actually be able to stay at the school on the farmland and meet the farmers. You have a choice that night if you'd like to see a show at the local art center. We're going to showcase new work and a playwright, so you can have a conversation around art, not just being entertainment, but really being a catalyst for strong conversation with community. Then you'll have dinner at that local farm, really talking to people who live on the island and make a living in the agricultural business. You'll sleep under the beautiful starlight of Whidbey Island. You'll wake in the morning, get back on the ferry, our lead sponsor, loop back to Seattle on Monday morning. But remember, you have this punch card that you've punched in all 3 locations, and you get to send that back in for an amazing gift. Maybe it's a flight on Alaska Airlines, another great sponsor. We could talk them into it. But basically, you've met the creatives by land and by sea in 3 amazing communities in Washington State.
Awesome. Fantastic, everyone. Thanks so much for doing that. We appreciate your good thinking and sharing the awesome stuff that exists in each of the communities. The idea is for you to think about what's out there and how do you share that with everybody, and how can you make those connections with your geographic neighbors as we go through planning some activities for folks who are coming to the Creative District. So this will tie into some of that work that we were talking about earlier with that with our directory that we're planning, and some other activities that we'll move on to in the future. So we are going to take a quick break. It's not going to be the full 15 like we originally planned on. It's going to be closer to like 5 minutes. Because we want to make sure that we have time to spend on the next section, the next process, or the next part, which is talking about sustainable funding. So we're going to do a quick 5. Adrienne, if you can throw the, put up the timer. So we got 5 minutes, and then we will reconvene here at 12:11. So we'll see y'all in 5 minutes. Thank you, Adrienne, for recording this. So I just want to tee this all up because we have a bunch of creative districts that are in various parts of their life cycle. And we know that funding is always a challenge for arts and culture organizations, particularly for organizations that are kind of in the early stages of growth and development. And now that we have 13 districts, and we'll probably have 20 over the next couple of years, we need to figure out a way to ensure that your communities can do this for the long haul. So we want to think about what that looks like. And I believe that community development starts from a grassroots kind of way, and that you all are experts in your communities, experts in knowing what you need more than I ever could. And so as we start to plan for a decision package for our program that we'll be writing for not this coming fiscal biennium, not 23-25, but for the following one after that, that we're doing this in a collaborative kind of way, and that we're being intentional about it, okay? As many of you who were with us a couple of years ago know, the reason why we got that capital funding was because you all worked together to make that happen. That was a really unexpected project. That wasn't our original intention, but we wanted to make sure that we could get funding for everybody, and we need something long-term. So what we're going to do here over the next 45 minutes or so is we're going to first do a popcorn idea discussion, a popcorn idea activity, and then we're going to break into small groups for a short discussion, and then we'll bring back to the larger group discussion to think about what this looks like. So we have a really quick activity using menti.com. So Adrienne's going to go ahead and share this. You can see at the top of your screen, you're going to have to use another browser to do this. So if you have 2 monitors, we recommend putting your browser on another screen to do this. Go to menti.com, and then a little box will pop up that will ask you to put in this code that's up there at the top. and also Adrian put it in the chat. So before you start filling this out, okay, we want you to be intentional about this thing. Don't write a paragraph or a dissertation right now. So you've heard some people say that levity is the soul of wit. Well, in this particular case, brevity is the soul of wit. So as you put in your idea or ideas, right, we want you to think of this in short, a sentence, a couple of words would be even better. So thinking about what would it be if you could make a request for long-term sustainability for the creative district, what would that look like? You know, and that could be what are the things that you need? We all obviously know it's funding of some kind, right? But where does that come from, right? What would that go to cover? And so what we want to do is take these ideas that you generate, break you into small groups, to discuss them even further. And then we're going to kind of come to the larger group to discuss a little bit more. So that's hilarious, Desiree. Trust me, I get it. I had Invisalign too, so I know how it works. So go ahead and start putting in your ideas. You can put in multiple ones. Okay, that's a great, see how that person annual operations budget by a fractional sales tax addition. That is nice and short, okay? And then just put them on there. So generate ideas. We're going to spend a couple of minutes on this. We want as many ideas as possible. Don't overthink it. But what we're going to do is have you all put your idea in and then pick the ones that you think are the top 3 on this list. We're seeing some good ideas. So if you have multiple concepts, please put them in separate lists or in separate ideas instead of, okay. So we saw somebody who put 2 in 1. If we can keep them separate, that would be easy easier for us. And then, so Dina asked to have someone put their idea in there. Oh, thanks, Stefan. Okay. Okay, so I've seen some really, really great ideas here. So Adrian, I want to leave this up for just a second so everybody has an opportunity to look at them all. What I want you all to do now is each of you individually look at these and pick the top 3 ideas that you think are the best, right? Doesn't matter if it's yours or not, or something that you're like, hey, that's cool. What does that look like? Some of these are very similar, right? Obviously, we know that some money to support creative district staffing is something that's important for all of you. Okay, and so as we pick these top 3 ideas, each of you, what we're going to do is break everybody into groups, into smaller groups. How do we see all the answers? They're on screen right now. They should be, you should be seeing them on your screen right now because we're sharing them. After this, what we're going to be doing is keeping all of this information, and we will be sharing it out with everybody in our post-event links and survey and stuff like that that we do. Okay, so Adrian's going to break folks off into small groups here in just a second, and you're all going to spend okay, well, so just do your best, Stephanie. If it's scrolling, the scrolling is something that we can't control, so you're just going to have to do your best. And so what we're going to want to do is have you pick those ideas, and Adrian's going to paste them in the chat too, but we have to get them all first. Go into small groups. You're going to discuss a couple of these ideas, and then as a group, you're going to pick your top 1 or 2 ideas that you all collectively agree are important, and then we'll come back together to discuss this. Okay, so Adrian, are we ready to break folks into small groups?
I'm going to need about 2 minutes. I was busy typing.
Okay, sounds great.
Hey, so while we're paused here, I have an appointment I have to get to. This was great.
Okay.
Thank you guys for everything. I enjoyed
Thanks,
it.
Chuck. It was great to see you.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't stay to the end, but I can't miss this appointment.
No worries. No worries. We appreciate your time.
All right, I'll leave it up to you, Lynn. Yeah, thank you for doing this, Annette. This was great.
Yep. All right. We'll see you soon. All right, so Adrian will be
Okay.
putting folks, oh, awesome, there
Yep,
we go.
ready to open them.
Perfect, thanks so much.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, awesome. So thanks for doing that, everybody. What we want to do really quickly is just have each group super quickly. I'm going to call you off by group, and then I want you to super quickly tell us your top 1, 2 ideas that struck you as the most important. And then we can kind of go on to a discussion after that. So in room 1, the room that had Afua and Lynn from Chewelah, I saw the list in the chat. Oh, she posted it, but it perhaps didn't show up. Sorry about that. So the conversation in room 1, the group that had Afua and Asa and Lynn and everyone else, you want to just, whoever the reporter outer is, give us your top 1, 2 ideas.
Yeah, that was me here.
Okay.
So probably our top 2 was, to probably no one's surprise, but paid operations and marketing staff. There's just a lot that could be done in just, or should I just keep it there?
Yeah, just keep it there. We just want to get that popcorn session so that we can get everybody's in, so then we can have a conversation. So, okay, we got that. Paid staff and
And the
marketing.
amount. I'm sorry, and the amount.
And the amount.
$50,000.
50 grand, baby. I like your thinking. Okay, is that one time or annually?
Oh, annual, you know
All
it.
right, let's go. Go big or go home, right? All right, so room number 2, we had Annie and Joanne, Rahana. So that group.
Okay, so we agree staffing support for Creative District, and then our second one was funding grant support for promotional tourism marketing.
Okay, basically the same thing. Awesome. All right, room number 3 that had Francis, Owen, Stephanie.
So thinking not so much about how we needed the funds, but where these funds are going to come from and how they're going to be sustainable, we're really interested in maybe exploring how creative districts can develop assessed districts using their property owners or business merchants within their district to accept an assessment fee for long-term funding or 5 years at a time. And they're also really curious to learn more about how For Culture is funded, or if it can be modeled after something like the Historic Tax Preservation Fund fee collection, so that counties and cities can generate revenue long-term that can be more sustainable at those local levels.
Awesome. That is really interesting. I like your guys' thinking, because there's the what, but then the how. And that's the thing that we have to pitch to the legislature. So that's where this is headed. Thank you for that. Room number 4 that had George, Susan, Virginia, Ryan.
So one of ours was money for creative district staffing, which is a consistent one. Also money, funding for marketing of each district. And then the third one was related to where the money would come from. And our thought was B&O tax and the Main Street program, some of that funding going to the creative district.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Group 4, group number 5, which had Desiree, Sean, Stefan, Jenny.
So we kind of honed in on the affordable housing or live work opportunity as being kind of our top number 1 talking points. Just kind of, I think all of us know. So the affordable housing component to the creative district. Also, we kind of touched on strengthening the city local partnerships specifically, and kind of attached to that affordable living part is like in reference to like coding or adaptive reuse for those communities with historic buildings, and somehow kind of mitigating the cost prohibitiveness of being able to reuse what a lot of communities already have. And then the third thing was, of course, the administrative assistance with the administrative help of the creative districts, maybe additional grant opportunity for additional administrative help.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Group number 5. And finally, group number 6 with Inez, Rachel and Leslie, Todd, Kathy, Fowles.
Rachel, take it away.
All right, for our group, the first thing that is high on the agenda is how do we start to get more spaces for both live, work, studio. And we're looking at examples like in Port Townsend, where it's really a partnership, where it's a park's own building, the Fort Worden. So that, using that as an example. And part 2 is really about access to information, particularly the Creative Vitality Suite. I know it's a challenge that there was the model was changed in terms of subscriptions. It would be really important for each one of these creative districts to be able to get in, dig in the data, and start being able to make really strong economic arguments and to really understand what's going on in their creative communities.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Rachel. Yeah, currently with that, we can pull that information and that data for any district that they want. Most people just want really high level stuff, but we can delve really, really deeply into it. It is a burden that we cannot bear at this point at our agency to pay for subscriptions for everybody. So, it's like you can either pay for it on your own, which is not cheap, or figure out something that's a little bit more collective, or just do what we've been doing, which is just tap us and you don't have to pay anything, So that's where we're at right now. But that's a good point, Rachel, around what does that creative economy stuff look like? Okay, so now that we've gotten some of those ideas, and what we're going to do after this meeting is we're going to compile all of these and send them out again, like, as you know, sort of feedback for everyone. Let's spend the next 15 or so minutes. We just want to sort of like talk about this. I've heard, the idea of sharing money with Main Streets, which is great for the creative district Main Streets, but there's like 39 other Main Streets out there that aren't creative districts. I'm not sure how that's going to work. We also did hear, and this was before COVID, we also did hear from Revenue, the Department of Revenue, when we had conversations with them about sustainable funding, that probably a B&O would be a hard sell because Main Street's already got it. Could be different now. Part of the exploration process is going to be around if there's an opportunity for us to do that as well, or if there's additional funding models that we can look at, something, more sustainable. So I'd love to just take comments from folks, use the hand raise feature that's built into Zoom. If you want to make a comment, we're going to try to get to as many people as possible. If you have a comment, please keep it to less than 60 seconds so we can ensure as many people have an opportunity to speak as possible. Lynn, you've got the mic. You were the first person up.
Thank you. I was thinking that we could do something like what we did with the collective getting the capital funding, where we could collectively lobby for maybe a share of tourism, commerce, art SWA funding to collectively, all the districts come together. What do you need for your operations budget to have a person or marketing budget, whatever you want to call it, and collectively lobby for that funding to come through the art SWA and out to us. I don't see why it could be any different. And if we're collaborating together on that, then we're hitting all the districts, and that just, all the people involved in government get a kudo for it. So why couldn't we attack it the same way?
So I can address that really quickly before we move on to Joanne. So the purpose of the beginning of this conversation is so that we can create a legislative request. So we write a decision package. Last time around, we wrote, when we got the funding for the capital projects, we wrote a decision package. It was not funded in the decision package. And then the decision was made sort of at the genesis of the folks in Edmonds in collaboration with everybody else to do that capital projects thing. That was great, but we want to get something that is built in either as a legislative request or something that's a little bit more codified for us, because again, with capital funding, they can pull it, right? So we have to keep requesting it every single time, and at some point things could change and maybe they would pull it from us. Operating funds, it's a little bit different, right? There's a little bit more of a steady kind of thing. Once it's in your budget, you get it in the budget, and it's harder to remove it unless something really massive happens. So the idea of doing that collective ask is absolutely what we want to do, but we want to do this more in the process by which we create a decision package or a legislative request. Not sure quite yet. And then once we submit it through our formal decision package process into the OFM and the governor's office for the budget, then that's when the lobbying and the collective, I'm not supposed to say that word, the collective advocacy that you all will do is going to start taking place. So, and to your second point, bringing in multiple agencies for a request like this has its own set of challenges. So we can maybe get their support, but I wouldn't necessarily at this point recommend we try to bring them all in for a collective ask, because then it just becomes more complex. So the more we can keep it to the funding comes into our agency, they support us through just, whatever, as friends or partners, that's fine. But I don't necessarily know that revenue sharing is the best solution. But we can, again, talk about that. I might hear something different from our folks at Commerce or DAP or wherever. They might disagree with me. But, those are some things that we just want to kind of keep in the forefront as we go through this. Yes, to the collective advocacy, but let's do the process first. Joanne, you have a comment?
Yeah,
I think the beauty of the creative districts is that they're all different, which poses a really big challenge for Artois in coming up with something that works for every one of us. And I was in the group with Stephanie, and Stephanie had, I thought, some really great ideas for some of these revenue streams that are already out there, and using them. And one of the things you had mentioned, Stephanie, was the property transfers. A small fee whenever a property is transferred, take some of that, put it into the creative districts. The question of how For Culture is funded is a good one. Like, what is that mechanism? And the B&O thing, I was thinking that we would not get anywhere if we tried to take money away from the Main Street associations, which are very much needed, but perhaps using a mechanism like that for the creative districts without swiping money from someone else in our community is a possibility. So.
Thanks for that. I believe that For Culture is actually funded by King County. So it's a part of the county budget, county thing. So we could certainly delve into a little bit more about their model and see what that looks like. But I think that's how it works. So in King County has got money more than we do, unfortunately. Okay, so Stephanie.
So another thing that might be worth exploring is with support from Artois, maybe helping districts prepare documents needed, going to their municipalities or cities and forming an assessment district. So separate from a business improvement district, but a similar mechanism where based on the borders of our districts, we would work with our property owners or merchants and see if they'd be willing to enter into an assessed district relationship that would have maybe a minimum of 5 years. It would sunset or it could be renewed, and they would agree to a set fee, which we would be able to collect and use for creative district activities from operations or et cetera. Now that might not work for all communities because they might already have assessed districts or their districts might be a part of that. But where I would see support being very valuable is if that organization is struggling with how do they pitch that? How do they present the economic value? I think that could be a great mechanism for some of our communities to form assessed districts throughout their creative districts as a way of helping their own businesses contribute towards their funding. So it's like a micro B&O, but different.
That's an interesting concept. Thanks for sharing that, Stephanie. That could be an opportunity. Again, like when we go through this, any idea, is we can explore any and all ideas, but at some point we'll have to come up with some and recognize that the reason why we're starting this process so early is that we want to have a really strong ask. And I know from having written multiple decision packages on behalf of our agency and my program that the better ones are the ones that have a little bit more planning and forethought involved in them. Plus, also one of the requirements moving forward is that there's a very strong collaborative and community input aspect to our decision packages. And so that's kind of where we're starting from, is like, you all know what's best for you. So we want to do that. So Kathy has a comment that she left. The city of Seattle also has arts and cultural districts. Afua and I are on the steering committee of the Columbia Hillman and Cultural District, Hillman Arts and Cultural District. The city's model is that each district gets $50,000 for a startup and then $10,000 annual operating support after that. Our A and C district has been able to leverage that funding for other grants. Yes, that is a good model. That's what they did in Colorado. That was what we were hoping. Our legislature, as some of you know, didn't give us any funding at all for grants in the very beginning. The funding basically just covered program operations. And then we were sort of given the opportunity or left to our own sort of devices to find grant funding through other mechanisms within our agency to do that. And then as we've been able to have more districts and be more successful, we've been able to get that actual funding. It's never been enough. We wanted it to start at a high level like that. And so the idea is, how do we get to that point at some point here? And now that we have, more than a dozen creative districts, if we all of a sudden get funding for creative district number 14 gets $50,000 as a startup, we have to backfill, in my opinion, all the other districts, because that's unfair for new districts to be getting crazy amounts of money and the old districts didn't. I don't think that is equitable, and I wouldn't want that to be part of the project or the process. So we would have to figure out a way to ensure that there's parity across the board, whatever that looks like. All right, great. So any other thoughts or ideas about this? This is a big thing, right? I know this is a lot for us to think about. I do know that it's a concern for everybody, from those of you that just started to those of you who are sort of our old timers, as it were, right? Our older districts. You know, we're coming up here within another year of recertification, starting recertification for districts. And so how do we ensure that your districts can grow into your next half decade and beyond that? That's what we're looking at here. So anyone have any other thoughts, ideas, something that they want to share real quick? No? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to digest some of this information. We are making an open call for folks. So if you want to be part of this process, like helping us on a steering committee of a sort to help us through this process as we write our decision package, in the upcoming survey, there will be an opportunity for you to, to put your name sort of on the table as part of that. We will be soliciting feedback from every single creative district, but we also want to make sure that we're doing this in a sort of in a planned and involved kind of way. I know some of you, particularly who work at cities, you have your own advocacy teams that you contract with. So it might be a good idea to start letting them know that this is something we're working on for the longer term. We don't want to jump the gun, so we will not be asking for this in the supplemental budget for next year. Our executive director asked us that question, and I said, no, I want to make sure that this is right and that we can garner the correct support. And I have a feeling this is going to be a big ask and it's going to take some time. So I want to make sure that we're thoughtful around how this works. Okay. So there will be that. So we're looking for folks so we have some asks for you guys. Okay, number one is if you are interested in participating in this panel for the Association of Washington Cities presentation, let me know sooner than later, or you'll answer in the survey, so that way I can decide whether or not to apply. I have to just do it by December, so basically like a month from now. The second one is for rural districts. You still want to continue, and if so, what are the topics of information that you want to see? And then the third one is this thing about our upcoming potential sustainable funding model, or do you want to participate in the steering committee for that? Some of you have sent me private messages and emails today with various topics, and I have gotten them and have seen them and will respond to you when I get the chance. But we'll be making sure that we gather all this information and input and taking that information from you as we go. So if we don't have any other questions or concerns or thoughts, we could probably end a couple minutes early, potentially. For some folks, I'll be trying to reach out to the communities to do follow-ups. A couple of districts are ready for their next round of funding. So they only took part of their funding last fiscal year and they can get additional funding now. So let's talk about that. For those of you that have not started your capital project programs, you need to start thinking about that. So we're going to start focusing on that. And for those of you that have submitted your applications for those, please continue moving those forward. And then we'll give you additional information as it comes about Arts and Heritage Day, if there is going to be one, and what other kind of support you all can provide on behalf of our program. Anyone has any parting thoughts, words, anything like that? George, oh, I see it. That's a thumbs up. Got it. Okay, thought you were raising your hand. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, if there's no other comments, I'm gonna let you all go a couple of minutes early. Have fun, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you again for joining us today. I hope to see you all in person soon, and definitely for sure next year at the Creative District convening.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jeanette,
everybody.
for all your hard work.
You're welcome. It's my
And
pleasure.
Adrian, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Yes, and
Appreciate
kudos
it.
to Adrian for all of her work on the back
Thank
end.
you. Thank you.
Thank
all.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.